The Maple Leafs get beat up by the Bruins once again as they drop their third in a row. Hey everyone, welcome to Inside the Leafs. Rob Wong joined alongside by Toronto Sun Maple Leafs writers Lance Hornby and Terry Koshan. And guys, it's ugly times in Toronto right now with the Maple Leafs having lost 3 straight games, all in pretty ugly fashion. They also lost Austin Matthews and Anthony Stolarz to injury on Tuesday night. Terry, I imagine the list is long, but what do you think is the biggest culprit for this recent stretch of poor play?
Well, it's just a lack of urgency and desperation, and then that just bleeds everywhere into their game, right? Like last night's a good example. You think, okay, the Leafs played 2 bad games. They're saying the right things after the morning skate in Boston, and all right, we're good to go here. They'll recover. And what happens? 3 defensemen take minors in the first 8 minutes, and afterwards, Berube said, "Yeah, they were penalties." The Benoit high stick was, whatever. But if you're taking penalties like that, McCabe breaking a guy's stick on hard enough slash. I mean, it's just, the Myers hook. It's just, you're out of position, this sort of thing. So that set the tone for last night. Overall, it kind of speaks to the way the group has been playing. I mean, there's been a lack of focus, which leads to like little to zero cohesion among the forwards and the defensemen on the ice at the same time. So it's a bit confounding because we're not coming back with a whole new group of people. It's not like they tore the core four apart and it's a bunch of new players getting to know each other. We've been down the road before. The D is all back intact and that sort of thing. And by now, any of the new forwards should have been have enough time to get accustomed to it. So it's, for whatever reason, there's that. It's a mental thing, like Berube keeps saying, but he keeps saying it, and they can't get around it. It's very odd.
Well, yeah, you look at last night, and Terry and I have been here before at an early autumn struggle that suddenly they find their gear and away they go. And you certainly thought with a 3 game winning streak of just a few days ago, things were looking better. Then last night, you have Stolarz who really has to have a good bounce back game, makes 2 incredible saves off the start, and you think that's going to be it. At least they're going to stay in this game, not fall behind as fast as they did, and before you know it, a bad deflection, and then as Terry alluded to, the needless penalties, and you're playing catch up again. And they although they made a game of it at the end, you just can't dig a hole that deep against especially on the road. So it is confounding. I've thought a couple of times it looked like they're going to just shake off the autumn blahs and get rolling, and they're not. The same mistakes are happening again, and certainly they. There's a couple of outlying factors. There's no Chris Tanev, although they weren't playing great when he was in the lineup. He is nevertheless a strong part of that. Again, another Scott Laughton injury, which disrupts the line. So things just aren't clicking right now, and it is frustrating, certainly from the fans' perspective, I'm sure, to hear the same excuses and the same things over and over again. Attention to detail, we have to execute, blah blah blah, and they go out and they don't, and that's a big part of this problem right now. And the worst part for them, I think, is that they've blown a lot of home games. Now the schedule only gets tougher, but who knows? Maybe that's what they need to coalesce a bit on the road, find their gear in that respect.
Yeah, and I just quickly there what the home game they had Thursday. Here come the LA Kings, who won 7-10 on the road and spanked the Canadians last night. So it's not like their little this return home for one game would be a bonus for the Leafs. So we'll see.
Yeah, we definitely will see about that. Now, Lance, everybody is wondering what kind of changes can be made at this point. It's too early to be talking trades, of course. That generally doesn't happen at this time of the season in the NHL. But if you're GM Brad Treliving, there any internal moves, any internal buttons you could push to try to light a spark in this team?
Well, that's if the fans had their say, certainly there'd be, and many in the media too. There would be trades right now, instead of the American Thanksgiving, which is usually the witching hour for trades. But you know what? It's getting close. Certainly, you'll hear a lot of buzz. Teams have had going on up to close to 20 games now to examine what they have, and maybe that there's something they could do. They're going to certainly start looking, at least. But as far as the Leafs go, I mean they cashed in a lot of their chips at the trade deadline. Not a lot to offer there. There's nobody on a white horse coming from the Toronto Marlies. I would say that it's probably good now in retrospect that if they're having this dip, that Easton Cowan's sort of out of the picture and allowed to progress a little bit with the Marlies. Speaking of which, you have Joseph Wall. Who knows when he's going to return? Hopefully, has a pretty good game in his next start. And as Brube hinted, maybe he's back sooner than people think. That would certainly help to have a little bit of consistency in goal and have Joseph Wall certainly come back. But that is a big question mark, as we don't know physically and mentally what he's up to at this stage. So not a lot they can do now. He can keep throwing the lines in a blender. That doesn't seem to be working either. So it will be interesting to see what they come up. Whatever happens, though, it's got to come from inside that dressing room right now.
Yeah, it's externally it's just not going to happen. I mean, Treliving's hands are tied financially. If there's any sort of trading, money has to go out. And you have lots of scouts watching Leafs right now saying, well, who necessarily would we want? The person that I think that most teams would want to acquire would be Easton Cowan, and the Leafs don't have any interest in trading him because, as Lance alluded to, he cashed in a lot of those chips last year at the deadline in trading for Scott Lawton and Brandon Carlo. And, whether it's first round picks or Fraser Minton going out the door, the Leafs don't have a lot coming down the pipe here. So it has to be done internally. At this point, it's hard to say. I mean, do you give somebody a jolt and call up a Jacob Cullen from the Marlies? He's got 12 points in 12 games to start. He's had a nice start. And bench a veteran. How does that work in the long run? People talk about, okay, well, Max Domi needs to be benched. Maybe Matthias Michelli could sit out for a bit. These guys aren't going to learn anything by watching right now. They are what they are, and there's not much point in that. I mean, if Berube's happy with the effort, and I don't know that he would be, but if perchance that he is, then this is what these guys are, and you have to kind of grit your teeth and go through it. But yeah, it's I guess you keep your fingers crossed that the Stolarz injury isn't too bad. I mean, as not good as he has been, you still want him to try to find a way to right the ship. You look at Joe Wall and say, okay, can he come back and help out here? And of course, we'll find out at some point too the extent of the injury to Tossin Matthews, with the Leafs being off today. But it's got to come from within. And this to me isn't a coaching thing. When people coach this, no, it's not. I mean, Craig Berube didn't suddenly become an average coach overnight. He's a good hockey coach. The players really, for once and for all, got to look at themselves in the mirror and say, okay, we can work this way out. We can work our way out of it, because collectively, it's not. They're not individually. They're not bad hockey players, but somehow you got to be starting better and clicking more, and they have to find it within themselves. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and I'll quickly add, it's they can't count on teams just falling by the wayside. It's a very competitive Eastern Conference this year.
Well, even now, I mean, you're right. They're sitting above the Sabres in the Eastern Conference. That's it. I know that the points are all jammed together and several teams have 17, but these points still count on April 15th when the season's done. If you don't get them now, you're not getting them at the end.
Yep, and as Terry said, won't get any easier coming up on Thursday with the LA Kings coming to town. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Terry Koshan and Lance Hornby, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.